We take a stack of sources, or in this case, something a little different, and give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed.
That's right. Today is fascinating because our source isn't the content itself. It's more like the architectural blueprint for an argument.
Exactly. It's an excerpt that details the structure for a debate called The Poison of Ambition, a Battle of Wits.
Hmm.
So our mission today really is to dissect that structure, to pull out the knowledge the author embedded in, the rules of the game.
Right. We're looking at why this specific high-stakes format was chosen to explore la motivation toxique, or toxic motivation.
And the source is very clear about the outcome, why it destroys lives. That's not a subtle point.
Not at all. And that's what makes it so interesting. We're looking at the tension between intense drive and, well, total self-destruction. By analyzing the framework, the characters, the topic, the style, you can actually anticipate the arguments.
Which is often more valuable than just reading the conclusion, isn't it?
It is. This isn't just an essay. The author designed an ideological war zone, and you get to see the tactical map before the battle even starts.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with the title itself, The Poison of Ambition.
Yeah.
I mean, ambition is usually seen as the default virtue in our society. It's the engine, it's fuel.
Yeah.
So where does the fuel turn into?
Well, poison.
That title creates this immediate fundamental cognitive dissonance, right?
It does.
Ambition means striving, moving up. Poison means contamination, system failure. So the author isn't talking about mild discomfort here.
No.
They're suggesting that the same mechanism that drives incredible success can also lead to catastrophic internal collapse. Toxic motivation in this context. It's the difference between a high-performance engine running perfectly.
And one running so hot it just melts itself down.
Exactly. It melts its own pistons.
And the stakes, I mean, they couldn't be clearer.
Yeah.
When the source says the debate is about motivation destroying lives, we're not talking about burnout.
No, we're way past work-life balance stress. This is about real existential outcomes. Ruined health, collapsed relationships, a total loss of who you are.
And that framing is so deliberate. If this were just about, productivity tips, the language would be much softer.
Sure.
But destroys lives, forces the debate to go to the final irreversible costs.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. In these high-achieving fields, finance, tech, sports, we almost celebrate extreme sacrifice.
You put it on a pedestal. The person who never sleeps, the broken marriage.
Right. It's seen as the price of greatness. This source demands that the con side of the debate holds that sacrifice accountable when the result is just personal ruin.
Which leads us right to the heart of the structure. The source says it has to be a debate, one pro and one contra, an adversarial conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the big question for me. If the whole premise is about toxicity and destruction,
what could the pro side possibly be arguing?
Exactly. What can they say? They can't argue that destruction is a good thing.
And that is the beautiful challenge baked into this framework. It's why it's so powerful. The pro side can't argue for the toxicity itself.
So what's their angle?
Their only possible angle is to argue for the unavoidability of it, the necessity of that intense, risky drive if you want to achieve something truly extraordinary.
Ah, okay. So the pro side would say something like, the intensity you need to really innovate or disrupt. People on the sidelines just call that toxic because they aren't willing to pay the price.
Precisely. The pro argument would force you to consider if toxic is sometimes just a label we apply to the level of grit or single-mindedness that transformative success demands.
They'd point to historical figures and say, look, these people didn't have work-life balance.
Of course not. They operated at a level of intensity that warped everything else in their lives. The pro side is basically challenging the idea that healthy and extraordinary can always coexist, they're saying. You can have balance or you can have outlier success, but you rarely get both.
That's a really crucial distinction. It stops the whole thing from just becoming a simple morality play.
It does. The debate isn't just, is toxicity bad? It's, is that so-called toxicity a necessary side effect of greatness in a competitive world?
Which then puts a huge burden on the con side.
A tremendous burden. They have to show that the trade-off is never worth it. That the intensity that pro-side champions isn't just uncomfortable, it's unsustainable. It's pointless if you break before you even get to enjoy the rewards.
So the whole structure just forces you to see motivation as this risky spectrum, not just a simple good or bad.
Exactly. It's a negotiation.
Okay, let's pivot to the delivery. The source demands this whole thing use humor, tension at punchlines. humor, tension, and punchlines.
Which is so smart.
It turns it into a performance, doesn't it? It makes sure the arguments actually stick.
Oh, absolutely. The delivery is everything here, especially with such a heavy topic. Requiring tension means the dialogue can't just meander. The arguments have to be sharp, focused.
You should feel like the characters are really fighting for their philosophies.
Yes. Tension keeps you leaning in. And if you're thinking about efficiency for the listener, the punchline is the ultimate cognitive shortcut. It boils down a huge, complex idea into one memorable soundbite.
Right. It's the thing you remember long after the debate is over.
Exactly. I mean, imagine a punchline from the con side, something like, you spent your life building a monument that only others could visit, and by the time it was done, the resident had vanished.
Wow. Yeah, that hits hard.
It turns a theoretical argument into an instant, gut-level realization.
But we have to talk about the humor part. Using humor when you're discussing life destruction seems contradictory.
It does, but it's actually a critical tool. It's like a release valve. If the con side was just a relentless downer, detailing failure after failure,
You tune out.
you tune out. It's self-preservation. But humor lets the audience drop their guard. It makes the topic palatable enough that the warnings can actually sink in. It's a tool for penetration, not for making it trivial.
So the entire structure, the title, the pro-con setup, the delivery, it's all a machine designed to force you to confront the real failure modes of ambition.
That's a great way to put it.
If we synthesize all that, what are the inevitable points the debate has to explore, given the focus on destruction?
Well, based on that seriousness, it has to answer three core questions. First, it has to define the boundary
The boundary between what?
between healthy, ambitious drive and that toxic dependency on achievement. Where's that line?
That feels incredibly slippery in real life. When you're in the middle of a huge project, the line between necessary focus and addiction to success gets very blurry.
And that's where the tension comes from. The con side would argue the line is crossed the moment the process stops giving you any joy, and the win is just about avoiding failure.
Or when it crowds out everything else, sleep, health, relationship.
Right. And the pro side would just call that dedication. They'd say that's what separates the great from the good. That boundary debate is the whole foundation of the conflict.
Okay, so the boundary is number one. What's the second critical factor?
It has to be external versus internal metrics. The destruction the source talks about.
Yeah.
That almost always comes from a motivation driven entirely by outside validation.
The title, the salary, the awards.
The hedonic treadmill, right in action. External validation gives you this tiny spike of dopamine, and then it's gone. So you need a bigger achievement next time just to feel normal again. The goalposts just keep moving.
And the pro side might frame that anxiety as just, being ambitious.
But the con side would expose it as a bottomless pit. You're chasing the approval of others, which you can never control, instead of pursuing fulfillment, which you can. You basically become a slave to metrics that don't even belong to you.
Which makes your whole identity incredibly fragile.
Precisely. If your identity is your net worth, any threat to that number is an existential threat to you.
Yeah.
It's why that kind of motivation is so toxic. It makes you perpetually anxious.
Okay, so we have the boundary and we have external metrics. What's the third unavoidable point?
It has to be the cost-benefit analysis, the final trade-off, where the gains, like career success, are just completely outweighed by irreversible personal losses.
Irreversible being the key word there.
It has to be. The source uses the term destroys lives. That means the cost isn't something you can just recover from later. Right. The con side has to make the case that no amount of wealth or power makes up for the collapse of your health or your core relationships. If you trade your family for a career peak, they often don't just wait around for you to come back. The debate forces you to weigh the value of the win against the irreplaceability of the loss.
The whole framework, then, is this brilliant mechanism. By looking at the structure, it gives you, the listener, a roadmap to spot when your own ambition might be crossing over into something toxic.
What's really amazing to me is that the author didn't just write an essay. They designed this dynamic tension machine. The real insight is recognizing that any serious talk about ambition needs a strong, witty, opposing voice that is dedicated to showing you the potential for self-destruction.
It makes the warning impossible to ignore.
It does.
If ambition is a kind of high-stakes negotiation with yourself, this framework forces us to read the fine print. It makes us ask, what finish line is truly worth paying for with a life destroyed? That is the critical question this battle of wits just leaves hanging in the air.
And the lesson seems pretty clear. If you're chasing a goal at a huge personal cost, you had better be ready to defend that trade-off. Because somewhere, someone is building a very compelling case that your ambition is poison.
We hope this structural analysis helps you look at your own sources and motivations a little differently.